Lesson 50 is all about the decimal number line in tenths and dividing by a fraction. Our first problem says what decimal number is represented by point y on this number line. And if we want to look at that, we can see point y is right here. And point y falls between the numbers 7 and 8. Now what we have to figure out exactly where is this point y. And we need to use these tick marks in between 7 and 8 as information to help us. Now, if we count these tick marks between 7 and 8, we can see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 tick marks. 10 tenths is 1. That's why this 7 and 10 tenths turn to 8, because 10 tenths is 1. 7 plus 1 is 8. So, we know we have 10 tick marks, so this must be 7 and 1 tenth, 7 and 2 tenths, 7 and 3 tenths, 7 and 4 tenths. So we could write that up here, 7 and 4 tenths, 7 and 4 tenths. But we need to write this as a decimal number. So we know it's 7 and 4 tenths. That must be 7 and 4 tenths, or 7.4. And we'd have our final answer. That's what we need to do whenever we see a problem like this where the decimal number line is broken into tenths between numbers. Now the next question says, the diameter of a penny is 3/4 of an inch. How many pennies are needed to make a row of pennies 6 inches long? So I've made a line here already. It's about 6 inches long. Okay. Now if we have a penny that's 3/4 of an inch, and we're going to approximate this. Penny, the diameter, the distance across the circle through its center, d is equal to 3/4 of an inch. Double tick marks here, that means inch. So how many of these would we need to get all the way across our 6-inch line? We could draw them out, but we're not being precise right here because we don't use a ruler, or we're not using a ruler. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to say, well, we've got 6 and we need to break them into parts of 3/4. Whenever we're breaking something into parts, we're dividing. Equal parts means division. So we're going to say 6 divided by 3/4. Now this is a little tricky because we're taking a whole number and we're dividing it by a fraction. Whenever we divide by a fraction, we always want to divide by 2 fractions. So we know 6 is the same thing as 6/1. So we have the problem of 6/1 divided by 3/4. Now whenever we have a problem that has fractions being divided, we've got a key concept here. Okay, I'm going to put a line dividing our page. That key concept has 3 parts. Make sure you copy this in your notes. Part 1 is to copy. Part 2 is to put a dot. And part 3 is to flip. Copy, dot, flip. Again, make sure that's in your notes. Whenever you divide fractions, you go through this process. So we've got the problem of 6/1 divided by 3/4. Copy, that's the first part. Step 1, we're going to copy. And that means copy your first number, 6/1. Step 2. Step 2 means dot. So we're going to continue with our 6/1, and instead of having a division sign, we're now going to have a multiplication sign. You know the dot between fractions or any numbers means to multiply. Step 3 says to flip. So we're going to take our last number, 3/4, and we're going to flip it, or we're going to find the reciprocal of 3/4, which must be 4/3. So we're going to take our first 2 steps, 6/1, copy, dot, flip. We're going to take 3/4 and we're going to turn it into 4/3. Now we can go ahead and find out what our answer is going to be. You already know that you want to simplify multiplication before you multiply. So 6/3 is the same thing as 2/1, because 6 is twice as big as 3. We've just reduced that fraction. Now we go ahead and we multiply. We've got 2 times 4, that's 8. 1 times 1 is 1. So we've got 8/1, which we know we can simplify to 8. And we've got our answer. But when we have our answer to a word problem, we know we need a label. So it says how many pennies are needed. We need 8 pennies to make it all the way across this 6-inch line. Add your label. Box it. And you're all done. It's a lot easier to go through that operation of dividing fractions with your copy dot flip method than it is to take out a ruler and draw these pennies that are all 3/4 of an inch to figure out how many would stretch across this 6-inch line. Both ways work, but this way with our division is faster. We'll practice these concepts on our lesson practice next class, page 266 to 267. Make sure you've got your notes done. Come to class prepared, and have a nice afternoon.